But I was delighted to see Tom Schwartz show up, and apparently we're going to get him in Summer House next episode too. I think they say when they show the next episode bit. So like a double whammy of Tom Schwartz. That's what gets everybody excited. I definitely was whooping and clapping. That's my chicken jockey when Tom Schwartz shows up and sits down and goes, I don't know, man. It's tough. Yeah. Nothing more thrilling than that.
I was excited too, but also bring Sandoval, you cowards. Like, put him back on our screen. Mm-hmm. Like, don't be a coward. Bring him back. Let's go. Hello and welcome to the Bravo Outsider Podcast. I'm your host, Craig Midwinter. We're talking about Summer House and the premiere of The Valley, which were absolutely fantastic. I think we're going to dive into Summer House first. Dylan, do you want to just give a quick little recap about what happened here?
Yeah, what did happen on Summer House? We start things off with people kind of filing back into the house after their night out. A little bit of tension continuing to burble up to the surface between Lexi and Jesse, quietly disagreeing a bit. And not so quietly is Imrul's new girlfriend and Imrul boning in the room next to a stressed out Paige, which leads us into the following morning where Imrul is kind of confronted over his countless women that he's bringing into the apartment and boning. Paige continues to doubt her relationship in discussions with Ciara. And I guess that leads us into our finale, which is sort of a soft launch for Bravo's next spinoff, Cancer House, where sort of benefit dinner for a place for cancer patients to live, hosted by Jesse, of course, where I guess the most notable thing that happens there is that Jesse tells Ciara to stop touching him.
Yeah. Really fantastic moment there. But yeah, the body of this episode, I thought the portion that took place at the Summer House the next morning, I really, really loved how this was done. You can just like feel the hangover energy in this house. It's one of the things that somehow Summer House is able to like capture this hungover feeling that you get in the summer after a night of like partying too hard, and you are still almost like dizzy watching it. It's kind of going from like moment to moment and really capturing this like kind of annoyed, like eager to get back home, back to the city energy. Everyone is like a little bit cranky, but still there's a bit of celebratory mood still hanging over from the night before. It's still the weekend, but everyone is really like pickling in the alcohol from the night before. And I just really thought that this is something that Summer House really captures well. Like on Vanderpump Rules, we see them engaging in a lot of partying and really indulging, but we don't as often see the tension the next morning, or at least it doesn't come to my mind. Summer House, we always get that kind of feeling of being hungover and wanting to get back home and just like rot the rest of the day away, and that kind of anxiety that you feel when you do that. I think that Summer House is really able to capture that especially well, and it was a masterclass in that in particular this episode. From my perspective, at least.
I completely agree. But not only are they so good at showing the morning after, they're so good at showing people coming in at the end of the night. Like, and we have a great example of that this episode. Like, it's such a fun montage of like of people coming in, the kind of like security cam footage of Jesse and Lexi having their kind of drunken argument. A great moment where West and Kyle are coming in and both like really drunk and can't figure out how the door works or can't remember the combination or whatever the hell's going on there. And awesome moment of them just eventually pounding on the door and Lindsay opening it, and West just like goes in for a hug. Well, Kyle just starts doing like Greek statue poses, which is, I don't know, who knows what he's doing. And then I also absolutely love how well Kyle embodies that feeling of coming home really wasted at the end of the night. We have this great footage of him stumbling around the kitchen, just like
stuffing his
boxes
face
and stuff, stuffing his face, just eating everything that he can find. And then he falls asleep on a chair with his hands in his shorts pockets and is still there in that chair with his hands in his shorts pockets with his head flung back, snoring up towards the roof.
The fact that we get the time lapse on that scene to transition to the next day, like we see the sun, the light in the room changing based on the sun is just like fantastic.
So good. Yeah, so brilliant. Good. The whole transition from coming from the bar to like being hungover the next morning is just beautifully captured.
Yeah, totally. And you mentioned they're like coming into the house. I love how the next day we kind of have the people who were awake or half asleep kind of blurring the memory of what the banging sound was. Was it, Kyle and Wes trying to get in, or was it Imrul and his like new friend, as I think it was labeled? And I just really love how that was treated. Just this trying to piece together what happened at the end of the night, I thought was amazing.
Yeah, totally.
Is there anything else that stands out to you about how this episode was presented?
Now we'll dig into a little bit more about Jesse and Lexi fighting on their way back in, because I do really like the way that, again, another great example of using that kind of stolen footage of just these little shots of things that they clearly do not expect to be seen or to be heard. Like we have a little snippet of conversation of them kind of behind the vehicle in the driveway, very grainy, like night vision kind of camera, like looks like somebody's about to get drone striked or something. And and the audio of their conversation is like they clearly had to find that audio. Like they used some tools on that to like isolate the audio that was barely detectable in the raw audio feed, surely, that you just like sneak us in some little snippets of what they're talking about there. Of Jesse, like apparently we get a great like sense of like the end of an argument, like we know that throughout the ride home they've been talking about this, and we just get this little sniff of how it was going on just based on like what these little phrases we catch at the end of it, where Jesse seems to be like criticizing her for like getting too physical with West, and then and seems to be implying that she's being hypocritical of her for criticizing him, and he is clearly like classic Jesse stuff, being like very like mixed signals, being like, oh, I'm criticizing you, but also I love that about you, like, and that's just like you thriving, and that's great, no, that's cool, like I'm like that was totally more inappropriate than anything I have done. And I love that about you. That's great. Yeah, for sure. Like you really get the sense of that just through these things that were like, that are communicated to the audience in a way like this was not at all packaged for our eyes. This is things that these are moments that have been stolen and that have been snuck away and gifted to us. And the security camera footage, like aesthetic, like really drives it home. And then even when they're in bed at night, they continue to have this discussion, and we can see almost nothing but like Jesse's large veiny forearm just like sticking out of the bed while he continues to talk to Lexi in that way, and continues to say things like, no, I was just trying to say that I'm just happy to see you flourishing and stuff. And you just have like, it kind of just, to me, it almost underscores like how he has the power in the relationship. Like it's just like he has such like a languid kind of affect. He always comes off as like the most like chill guy who just does whatever he feels like in the moment. But you just have this like statuesque, large, veiny forearm hanging out, which it just kind of underscores that idea of him like just, it's languid, but it's also like very powerful. Like he's the guy who has all the strength and all the control in this relationship. And the fact that is communicated to us through these little snatches of grainy footage just sells it. That stuff works for me.
Yeah, totally. One thing that I really love about this is how it is a contrast to Paige and Craig. Again, we're seeing throughout the season, Jesse and Lexi played for contrast against Craig and Paige, because we have all this anxiety in Paige's story. This episode surrounds her being worried about what she has said on camera, like what the camera captured, how Craig is going to react to what is captured on camera. Both Paige and Craig are such veterans of the reality TV game. They're acutely aware of what is going to be on camera and make the cut versus what isn't. And then the contrast that you have, like you said, captured in these stolen moments are Jesse and Lexi, where they are assuming a state of privacy, that they're having these conversations in confidence, and we get this almost vulnerability. They're letting their guard down and showing who they truly are. And we see Jesse come off like a little bit manipulative, or maybe a lot of bit manipulative of Lexi's feelings. And it's just really interesting to see them as, you know, this a rookie and a sophomore, how they are assuming that these are moments that are private, and they're presented in a way that's almost voyeuristic. I thought it was just beautiful the way that it was played for contrast there.
Yeah, like you said, Craig and Paige are definitely being a lot more careful, but Paige is letting more and more out. But she's often framing it like she does with her conversation with Ciara in terms of how is it going to be seen? How am I going to be made to feel once this comes out? You know, she's clearly thinking on those multiple levels of like, what is Craig going to think of this, and what are people watching it going to think of this, and how are those two things going to play into each other? Which is why her conversation with Ciara is really really interesting to me. Though on the other side, like, Craig is not talking about his relationship at all, really. Like, we don't have like almost anything of him discussing it, that might be not a good idea, because he is just ceding narrative control to Paige.
Totally. Yeah.
As much as Paige is like not, you know, flaunting it, she's not necessarily seeking opportunities to control the narrative. She also is controlling the narrative because she's the only one who's discussing it. And even if those only happen in hushed tones where she's clearly somewhat anxious and uncomfortable about that discussion, we're still being treated to only her perspective and not Craig's perspective. So that plays in her favor in terms of how the audience is going to see things, because we're getting her side of the story and we're not getting Craig's side of the story. So that's kind of, I want to call it a misplay on Craig's part, and just in terms of like how things are going to come off for the audience, because he's ceded complete narrative control to Paige. And the show is framing it like, when they give like recaps of like where we are with their relationship at the start of the episode, they're picking moments that frame it as Craig feeling bitter about Paige's career being more important than his. You know, they're using the same terms in which Paige is framing the relationship, because that's the only framing we have, because we're only getting Paige's side of it and Craig is not offering his perspective.
I mean, he is offering a perspective. We are seeing him choose his moments to reinforce Paige's narrative. In my opinion, the things that we're seeing actually captured on camera coming out of his mouth reinforces her narrative. So, I mean, that just doubly makes me believe her side of the story, because you're right. It's all that we're getting. We're not getting him offer any sort of counter narrative. So I completely believe what Paige is saying, and her feelings come across very authentic in terms of the anxiety that she's feeling. And I don't think it's just a matter of the fact that he is ceding the narrative, even though, yeah, he definitely is also ceding the narrative.
Yeah. And while we're on the subject, another thing that I really like about that moment where Paige is kind of sitting in the bed with Ciara and talking about the relationship. I was saying last episode how Ciara is a great person to watch listen, because she has like such an active face. She's such an active listener, and she has like such great facial expressions. In that scene, what's going on with her hands is what's most interesting to me. Like, she's doing so much. She's fiddling with her phone with her hands while she's talking, and she's kind of got her face kind of zoning out, her eyes going unfocused while she's talking about being overwhelmed, and just kind of visualizing the breakup in that moment. I think she's just thinking, she's playing out in her head how it's going to go. And you could tell that this is something that she's been thinking about a lot, and this is stressing her out a lot and causing a lot of anxiety. and her like posture in her hoodie with her hair in a bun and stuff, and the way that her hands are like just so active and toying with her phone in her lap just like really communicates so much more than her words do in terms of her mental state right there. And that really makes you understand how like Ciara is like getting anxiety secondhand from being next to her. Like it really kind of just radiates out of her through her body language. So that's another great example of why Paige is a great reality TV personality, because there's so much physical communication both through her face and through her body language and stuff when she's on screen.
Yeah, totally. And that also reinforces what she is saying she's feeling. So she's telling us that she's feeling anxious, and her body language and everything about her is also communicating that. It really just makes her feel very authentic.
Mm-hmm. Exactly. Yeah, totally.
I do want to circle back to Jesse and Lexi a little bit, because this discussion that they have about, Lexi being too flirty and the differing perspectives on this, I thought was really interesting. And one thing that Jesse reminded me a ton of Tom Schwartz when in the most recent season of Vanderpump Rules, when he has like a confrontation with Katie about sleeping with Max. Just the fact that he's not mad about this. He's feeling like overwhelming relief about like the playing field being evened in his mind, where he's like, okay, I'm not the bad guy. Like we both have mistakes. We're even. And it's an overwhelming sense of relief, as opposed to like this anger or jealousy being the feeling like you would expect if, under normal circumstances. I just thought that was a really interesting parallel there.
Yeah, absolutely. And that's key to why his behavior is actually manipulative too. Like he frames that in terms, he even says at one point, I'm excited about like Lexi flirting with Wes. And he says like, I love it. I think at one point, like he loves that he has something that he can counter with. When she says like, oh, everybody says that you're being flirty with Ciara. And he's like, yeah, you're being flirty with Wes. Like he loves that. Like you say, he has something that evens the playing field. And he also loves that he now gets to tell her, oh, this is totally cool. See how cool I am about it? That's the proper way to react. Now I can frame you reacting to me flirting as being aberrant and weird and crazy, because I am now saying that you're flirting with somebody else and I'm being totally cool and smiley and playful about it. Like that is such like a key to why his whole like loosey-goosey charming guy act does have strong like manipulation undertones.
So I know that we didn't see a lot of this dynamic between Lexi and Wes, but from your perspective, how equivalent is it? Like, does Jesse have even a shred of a point?
I strongly doubt it. Again, not having seen what was actually going on, I feel like West is happy to flirt with Lexi because, again, West does not want the relationship to work out because he's jealous and he wants Jesse to himself. So I assume that West would be happy to like try to do anything that will make a wedge between Jesse and Lexi, including flirting with Lexi. But like whatever happened was happening when they were drunk as hell at a bar, which was kind of different from Jesse. Well, probably drunk too, but maybe not as much like in like an unchained bar context, like laying on top of Ciara and like, massaging her feet and stuff. Like, I think it feels so much more like intentional and premeditated what Jesse's doing with Ciara. Whereas I assume that whatever physical contact was happening between Lexi and Wes was probably on like a dance floor at the bar or something,
Yeah, and I just to put one more piece into the Jesse Solomon as a dirtbag dossier, and then we can close it, or I'm good at least
for this episode.
This episode. But the fact that after this conflict where he has presented his evidence to her that she has done something wrong, he proceeds to try to manipulate her into saying "I love you" back to him. Like now you've got to say it. You've got to say it because you did something bad, and I'm not mad.
Yeah,
I don't know. It's just like such dirtbag behavior, but really great TV.
Yeah, for sure.
Do you have a quote that stands out to you from this episode?
Well, even if we're kind of calling Jesse a bit of a dirtbag with reason, he also is like a bit of a bard at bro speak. And I do really like the way that he says to Imrul, in a way game would be great for you. Like that phrase that he uses, that specific turn of phrase for like, you should try hooking up with somebody at their house instead of your house. I just really got a kick out of the way that he just pulled out. Yeah, an away game would be great for you, man. During that discussion.
Yeah. I really like that. The one that stood out to me was from Lexi. Jesse tells me he loves me all the time, just not in front of anyone. Really amazing.
Can we just quickly, just briefly, just want to gloss over it, just mention Lexi's living arrangement and that it's kind of weird. She's
like
got
with her
mom,
sister, and
she's got her. Isn't that her mom and her older sister who are like living, who moved in with her because they have apparently dedicated their entire lives to her, from what we can see.
It's almost like a cult.
Yeah, it is very odd. So now they all live together in a 2-bedroom apartment where they ask Lexi, like, how does that work out? And she's like, oh, I don't even know. It just does, which I take to mean that they both share the other bedroom. Like her mom and her older sister just share the other bedroom. And Lexi's like, I don't know what they do. They sleep in the kitchen or something. Who fucking knows? It's my home. There's just something weird about having like your mom and your older sibling just like being your staff when I don't know. I mean, I get it if you're like a big celebrity, but she's like just somebody.
Yeah.
Like I'm sure she has some good modeling contracts probably, presumably, but it's like just an odd living arrangement. Just seems like a strange life that that Torontonian lives.
I love any scene that we get in the city, and this scene that we got of Lexi and her sister and mom at brunch was really amazing. I love that they're all in black and we have the vibrant like city behind them. I just really love the contrast. They're all drinking these like really dark espresso martinis. Just thought that was fabulous. They've got dark makeup on and everything. Really love that. But there's a moment in there, aside from the weirdness about like what's going on with their living arrangement, I love that mom and sister are just being like, oh yeah, Jesse's this like amazing guy. He's so great for you guys. I've never seen you date anyone as perfect as him. And I'm just like reading between the lines of like, he's really great for your career. Like that is like really what I'm hearing through their words. And then Lexi's like, well, actually the girls were warning me about some of his behavior, and we're kind of left on that, like that cliffhanger a little bit of like how is mom and sister going to interpret it, or at least that's something that's really interesting to me. Like, are they concerned about Lexi the person, like Lexi the family member, or are they more concerned about, you know, Lexi the product that their commercial success is so tied to? So I'm just really interested to see how their perspective of Lexi's relationship with Jesse evolves as that relationship further degrades, and what they kind of latch onto, because they almost feel like leeches. The fact that they are so tied into like what her success is, like their success is so like tied into her success. They live in her apartment and they just you know, fall asleep in whatever bed they fall asleep scrolling.
Yeah, because that's the flip side of it. Like I said, like it feels like they've become her staff, but like you mentioned, the other side is that it also feels like she has become their product. So it's like doubly unhealthy in both senses.
Any other highlights from this episode?
Yeah, I mean, Jesse's reaction to Ciara touching him was very weird, but I feel like we've already kind of covered that we're both kind of leaning more and more towards Jesse. Jesse just sucks. as a diagnosis here. So I'm not sure
I do want to talk about that a little bit more, because I thought how it was captured was so great, because like, I think so often with these characters, as we've talked about, the people that have been on this show for a long time or been on reality TV for a long time, like Ciara at this point, are so aware of how they are presenting themselves in front of the camera. And this felt like a moment of authenticity where she was just like fully taken aback and not sure how to react. It felt like such an honest reaction. Like, wait, are you serious? Like, what? What the fuck, bro?
Yeah.
Like, it was like, I just loved that moment. It just felt so authentic.
Yeah. Also like that we kind of get a little pin put in that with a confessional moment of Ciara being like, I see you. And like, oh, is this going to come back? Like, is Ciara just like going to become anti-Jesse because of this? Because I hope so. That would be great. And just another like quick mention that we speculated that Lil was dead to the series last episode, and with the news that Carla slept with somebody else, it feels like we can definitively say that Lil is gone from the show. So, just insert a little montage of Lil here, Craig, in memoriam.
I have a gift for you.
My goodness.
Because you always make lemonade out of situations. It's a metaphor, but also you can use it.
R.I.P. Squeeze a lemon out for
squeeze a lemon out for Lil. Hopefully she's making lemonade with somebody else out there now.
Yeah. Any other highlights that we haven't gone through yet?
Yeah, I think that basically covers the high points for me.
Yeah, I guess the one thing that we haven't really talked about is the final scene that we got with the girls lunching, where Ciara finally discloses this moment that happened at the Hope Lodge dinner. And I don't know, I really love these three, the dynamic between Amanda and Paige and Ciara. I just think that their history is just really communicated to us very, very clearly in how they interact with each other. The way that they talk about their off-camera family members, specifically their pets, and have little inside
insert
jokes
images of them, so I know who we're talking about. That's great.
Yeah, it really like brings us into the friendship, and it feels like so warm. That's communicated visually with how it's all presented. Just really fantastic, and that really opens us up to their discussion. And again, we talked about how I read Paige's narrative as very truthful because of her body language backs up what she's saying. But this is another example because we are brought in, we're feeling like we're being told this as friends and in confidence. And it just really kind of bolsters what the message is. And yeah, I thought it was great.
Yeah, that is a great call there. For sure. And one thing I'm just gonna note quickly is that I do kind of like that Imrul gets a little bit of confessional moment where he justifies sleeping around with a bunch of people by saying he was undocumented for most of his life, and he says I was living in the shadows and this is part of who I am. I kind of find that interesting. It does seem like kind of like a stretch, as in like a reason for why this is why I should be allowed to have loud sex in the next room. But I would like to see him elaborate. I would like to see more of that perspective explained from him. And he's mostly been an enigma, I feel, so far. So it would be interesting to get a little bit more of a glimpse into how his mind works. And that was an interesting little snippet that I hope we can revisit and see expanded on.
Yeah, when he said that, I knew it was going to resonate with you because you famously always check the passport of anyone that you sleep with. So I knew that was going to hit with you.
It's true. And I call Homeland Security if it doesn't check out next morning.
Yeah. Another thing that I just remembered from this girls' lunch, we get a confessional from Paige during it where she talks about like just dealing with her feelings after the tour is over in terms of deciding where her relationship is at with Craig and whether or not she wants to break up. And I just thought like this was something that really resonated with me. And we've talked a lot about how we are seeing kind of the dying husks of a relationship that is past its expiry date. And just like, I remember being in relationships where it's like, okay, I know that I need to break up with this person, but like their birthday is in 2 weeks, so I can't do it until after that, or whatever. Totally. I just like I know that feeling, and it was so honest. She just really nailed it for me. Okay, so let's give our stars here before we move on to the Valley. Who are your stars?
Yeah, I'll give number 1 to Jesse. Let's do it. He's just continues to be the most fascinating person so far at this point in the season. So I'll go for my number 1. Number 2 to Paige. Again, given lots of good stuff there. It's really, really interesting to see her perspective on that kind of last gasps of a relationship stage, like you said, and it's just an easy person to like empathize with, and seeing her on screen is always great. Let's give a 3rd star to Ciara. Once again, like the previous episode, the Paige scenes are also great Ciara scenes too. So she continues to bring a lot, both to the discussions as a listener and as like an agent acting on the conversations too. Like she really aggressively confronts Imrul kind of at Paige's behest, or kind of like Paige kind of prods her to it and she kind of makes it happen. Does a good job like being kind of stern and strict with him, while also being like, nobody's mad at you. We don't have to make it an argument. I'm just speaking for myself, but like the objection has been clearly stated, and now I will walk away. Like she handled that well. Yeah, continues to do a great job on the show.
Yeah, totally. I think like Paige, Ciara are my 1, 2. I'll probably give the edge to Ciara because, I mean, for all the reasons that you mentioned, she's very active in this Paige and Craig storyline here, like way more than I was expecting. We get a lot from her. She's similar to Paige in that we get a lot from her face and her reaction shots as well. And yeah, so I thought that she brought a lot. She's also got her own thing going with Jesse, which is really coming to a head here. I just thought this was a fantastic episode for Ciara, so I'm all about that. Number 2, let's give it to Paige. I don't think I need to elaborate because we've covered that in depth. Number 3, I don't know whether to give this to Jesse or Lexi. I am leaning towards giving this to Lexi just because we did get that extra scene with her and her family. I think that adds a dynamic that Jesse isn't necessarily bringing. Yeah, so I think it was a great episode for all of them, and obviously honorable mention to Jesse.
Yeah, and honorable mention to Imrul's friend number 7, or whatever the count is at right now.
yeah, totally.
The moaner, as she will always be known.
The fake moaner. We didn't dive into that, but Paige knows a fake moan when she hears one. Okay, so we're going to dive into the Valley right away. Before we do, just take a quick moment to hit the subscribe button if you are watching on YouTube. If you're not watching us on YouTube, go to our YouTube and subscribe. It's way better there. I haven't addressed
Craig has bunny ears right on.
I'm wearing bunny ears. Yeah. You wouldn't know that if you were just listening on Spotify or whatever podcast app. Before you hop on over to YouTube, hit your subscribe button on your podcast platform of choice, because that helps us out too. Leaving a comment really helps a ton as well. Everyone tells you what to do. You know what to do. So just do it for us.
Just do it.
Please. It'd be a nice Easter present. Okay, let's dive into the Valley. Dylan, give us a summary of what happened here.
All right. I'm glad we're back. We're back in the Valley. Yeah. Dissolution of relationships is front and center. Jax and Brittany on the skids. Jesse and Michelle thoroughly divorced. So much of this episode is really just kind of like, setting the stage for how the different people are going to divide their sympathies in the aftermaths of these splits. Yeah, Janet and Brittany like do some like gardening, make little greenhouses. Kristen is stumbling through the episode, zonked out like a zombie, as far as I can tell. And it ends with, on the one hand, our old buddy Tom Schwartz showing up to comfort Jax in Jax's Studio City bar, and then also a rooftop white party hosted by Brittany.
Shout out Whiteouts. Let's go Jets, go.
Which
that's going to hit with our audience, by the way.
Which I guess the big moment of the whiteout party is Janet and Kristen going toe to toe over Zach's comments and demonic behavior.
Okay, I love that we're calling it the whiteout party now. So just want to put that out there. While we're on the topic, though, the NHL playoffs are on right now. One thing that I am really missing this season is Jax's commentary on Twitter, because usually if you follow him on Twitter, he's so active during the NHL playoffs. So I'm dying to know who he thinks is going to win the cup this season. Who do you think Jax is going to win the cup this season?
Well, if you want Jax's takes on the NHL playoffs, I think you just have to follow the Tampa Bay Lightning accounts, because they are run by Jax Taylor. I think he was hired to run their accounts like 6 or 7 years ago, which is why he moved to Florida 6 or 7 years ago, and why we never saw him in LA again after that.
All right. Once again, you are tuned into the Brav Hosers, the #1 hockey and Bravo podcast online. Sorry, I definitely derailed us quite a bit here, but what did you like about how this?
They all turned it off.
Yeah. What did you like about how this was presented?
I mean, it does look consistently good throughout all of it. I like that we have the little gardening moment between Janet and Brittany. We've previously talked on the show about how like plants and gardening are often used on the show as like kind of a shorthand for trying to tend to your own life and, make things grow in your own world, especially after a breakup. So we get a bit of that, which is nice. The rooftop party, the white party, is also kind of nice as a sort of shortcut to communicating to the audience that like these are the people who are like trying to show themselves as being clean, as being dressed in white, as being the good guys, as being above it all, as being like the ones who are looking down on other people who are right, who are correct, who are, that kind of like everybody who's there for Brittany is kind of there to communicate that, which is great. So that's great, like a really great kind of party for her to have for that, because that seems to be kind of an overriding theme in this episode. I think is that in the aftermath of these breakups, who is going to stake out the territory as being on the right side, and also who is like just going to be committed to playing mental games and trying to like fuck with their partners or their ex-partners for the rest of it.
Yeah, totally. The white party was like a standout moment for me in terms of like aesthetic and themes. Just this idea of like rebirth or rebaptism and, new beginnings. And we even see Easter. Yeah. Yeah. We even see God's chosen Kristen Doty and Janet try to like turn a new page. It doesn't go well, but this is an opportunity for rebirth, and I just love that. I really appreciated that. Do you have a quote that stood out to you from this episode?
Well, you already brought up God's favorite, Kristen Doty, so we're always glad to have her come back. I do like her saying, know that if I'm telling you I am correct about something, don't call me a liar. I hope everyone feels really stupid because I feel so validated. That is a little subtle. It's a little, you got to read between the lines there, but I think she is saying that she's right. I love that. That's the stuff we show up for, even if she seems to be like half present throughout this episode.
Yeah.
I think not entirely mentally there all the time. You can still count on her to show up and be like, don't forget, I'm always right and everybody else is always wrong.
So my favorite quote from this episode was from the plant shop guy, "Welcome to the jungle," when the girls walked in. I just really love that, that's how he greets everyone into the store, and he's just been like waiting to bust that out on camera and have it immortalized somewhere. So shout out to the plant shop guy.
Yeah, and then when Brittany says she's from Kentucky, he goes, "All right, giddy up."
Let's talk a bit more about Kristen Doty here. I really love the scene between her and Jesse, where Jesse is like apologizing and like begging to come over to the dark side, like begging to like be accepted by Kristen and Jax. And I thought that this was really a strategic move from him to like look at where things are and where his alliances could be. And I do feel like he honestly does believe the things that he is saying to Kristen, but I think there's also some strategy there. And in terms of like apologies that we get on Bravo, I thought this was actually like a really great apology from him. Like, I think that he really, really nailed it, but I'm curious what your read on that was.
No, totally. It was a complete apology. Like, it was without reservations. He apologizes unreservedly, but then he is also very unsubtle about why he's doing it, because he immediately right after says then, "So there are going to be people who are on Team Michelle, and there are going to be people who are on Team Jesse." And I was just wondering, and Kristen's like, "Yeah, okay, Team Jesse, sure." And like he doesn't make it he doesn't make it hidden why he's doing this. Like, he just straight up says, like, "I want you on my team, and please tell me that you are on my team right now."
Yeah, totally. In terms of other like strategic moments, is there anything that stands out to you?
The other similar moment would be at the end when Janet comes to speak to Kristen. Again, people are coming with Kristen with apologies. She just she just makes it happen. So that was interesting too, because Janet does come and does actually offer like a pretty good apology at first, but chooses not to back down when Kristen kind of like challenges it and says like, "I am not apologizing for anything I've done." So that was kind of interesting to me, because you see it, because I think that is strategic. Like, she does want to smooth that over and have like that inroad to Christian, but she's also kind of has enough backbone that when like Christian is just kind of being a bit of a brick wall, or like not showing any willingness to also bend towards her, when Janet's like, "I'm bending towards you, are you going to bend towards me?" And Kristen's like, "No." Janet at least has enough backbone to be like, okay, like that was going to be the play, but at this point I have to stand strong in my opinion too. So at this point I'm choosing to like call off the apology and call Zach demonic.
Yeah. How do you think, like, what do you think of Kristen's decision to not accept the apology and, deepen that divide?
She plays by her own rules. So far be it from me to a mere mortal to parse the entrails and do divination and look at the stars and try to figure out what logic. The logic is beyond and above me, and I could devote my life to try to figure it out, and I could never.
Only God and Ali Luber knows.
But my mere mortal reaction would be that it seems like a mistake, that she should have just taken it, and she just should have shown a willingness to be like, well, you know what, Zach does kind of suck, and that wasn't, I wasn't saying that, he was saying that. So thanks for coming to me and let's be friends. That seems like that would be the more like strategic thing to do.
Yeah, I think that you're right. I think for like Kristen's playstyle. Like you said, she's like, she plays by her own rules. She's an agent of chaos and she aligns herself with chaos. Like Jax is also really chaotic. We've seen Zach prove to be very chaotic. So, you know, I think that instability gives her a sense of stability. And so I feel like this is actually a really good move for her to like not accept the apology, because if she does accept the apology, she's not able to use that anymore. She has to like put it back, and you know, she needs levers to pull and buttons to push. And so I really like this move from her. I thought it was like it really showed her savviness. It could just be that I'm Kristen pilled, but I just really loved her not accepting this apology and just wanting to be like, no, we still got beef. This is still a thing. And I'm going to keep using this until I find something better and more relevant, which she will, because she's a goat. She's amazing.
Yeah, that's probably the right read. The one little detail I did like about that confrontation is like when she brings it to Luke, Colorado, and you know, she keeps going off. There's this little shot where you see like Luke kind of like running a hand on her back. Like they kind of like bring the camera into like him like kind of making these little hand gestures on her back, and it really feels like, I feel like they said like Luke lives on like a ranch or something, doesn't he? I don't know if he's a horse guy, but it feels like he's treating Kirsten like a horse. Like it feels like he's just like, ooh, there, all right, calm down. Just making these little brushes on her side, like, okay, we're gonna take it a little easier there. Not gonna work, but like the way that he physically approaches her, that the camera catches there, like really made me laugh, because it did feel like not the way that you like communicate physically to your girlfriend, but the way you communicate physically to an animal that you are intimidated by and hope will not kick your teeth out.
I've watched enough Yellowstone to know that not all horses can be broken. So, and I think Kristen is one of those horses that just can't be broken. Another like strategic decision that I wanted to bring up was Jax's decision to have a parallel party, like a rival party. I think it was described to Brittany's white party. And this is like just such classic Jax, but I really love how it has played out so far. The fact that we see this rogues gallery of randos that are showing up,
just random cokeheads and Tom Schwartz.
Tom Schwartz and his brother Bert, like and then I can't remember who says like, where is everyone? It's like, oh yeah, traffic. Oh, it's still early, but traffic is so bad.
yeah, right. Yeah, which is why we cut to the later moments where it's full of wonderful, lovely people who are friends with everyone. Yeah. But I was delighted to see Tom Schwartz show up, and apparently we're going to get him in Summer House next episode too. I think they say when they show the next episode bit. So like a double whammy of Tom Schwartz. That's what gets everybody excited. I definitely was whooping and clapping when he appeared at Jax's Studio City dive bar there. That's my chicken jockey when Tom Schwartz shows up and sits down and goes, I don't know, man, it's tough. Yeah. That's nothing more thrilling than that.
You know, I was excited too, but also bring Sandoval, you cowards. Like, put him back on our screen. Mm-hmm. Like, don't be a coward. Bring him back. Let's go.
For sure, that he would deliver so much more. Like Schwartz is so lame there. Like he is just like, he's being so careful in what he says. Like he doesn't want to say anything that's misplaced. So he's just like very like vaguely like not really looking Jax in the face, being like, so your feelings are valid, but your actions weren't valid, and that like just like saying like lame platitudes and just like getting through the scene. Sandoval would do more of a show. Like he would make it about himself. He would cry. He would pout at a corner. Like he would do more. Schwartz, it's classic wishy-washy Schwartz. There was a great wishy-washy Schwartz moment in there where like Jax is like in his feelings, the camera's just on Jax, and you just see Schwartz's arm go into frame, like it's going to like pat Jax or something, and then just kind of like then his arm just kind of retreats, like, nah, I'm not gonna do it. Like just that like wishy-washiness of being like, I'm gonna make a gesture, hover, nah, maybe I won't. It's just like perfect Tom Schwartz right there. Like
yeah, totally.
Yeah.
I was like, also, I feel like Tom Sandoval makes Tom Schwartz, and Tom Schwartz makes Tom Sandoval a lot more palatable. Like they just play well off of each other. I was watching a video essay on YouTube about various comedies like Dumb and Dumber or A Night at the Roxbury, and it was talking about how if you take one of these two characters and remove the other in isolation, they're just awful characters, and you would never be able to like feel sympathy towards them or relate to them, or like they would be completely indigestible as characters. But once there's two of them, then all of a sudden it's like hilarious how inept they are and how they interact with each other. And a lot of it has to do with the fact that, you know, each of these awful people who we would not be able to accept as individuals are able to see the best in the other, and how they are able to see the good, and that gives us that forces us as the audience to give them some grace, and that's like that really helps balance. And I think that, you know, that's very true of Tom Schwartz and Tom Sandoval, although like I think all their goodwill has pretty much gone out the window, and they're still very interesting to me as a result of that. But I know that a lot of the audience is not ready to accept them or give them any goodwill. But for the bulk of Vanderpump Rules and for the bulk of their run on TV, I do think that they have had that dynamic, and that really helped, you know, prop them up as these characters that we could really get behind and engage with.
Yeah, that's a really good point. And that's kind of the secret sauce of the Valley, actually, and why I like it, is that it's full of just terrible people. Like just awful, awful, shitty people. Like, I don't know if there's another Bravo show that has like such a collection of terrible assholes. But
Vanderpump Rules did. But
there you go. Yeah, but we kind of got like the almost the dregs, not the dregs, because we don't have Sandoval, we don't have James Kennedy. So yeah, it could get worse. But we, you know, but we've got like Jesse here. Like we've got some pretty awful people, and yeah, the fact that there are multiples of them doesn't make it unwatchable. It makes it more interesting because we see them like relying on each other, and like we see Jax going to Jesse for advice, and that is like that what I don't know, like whatever the equivalent of the blind leading the blind is for assholes, that's what that is. and you have like Jax talking about like, you know, flipping out at Brittany because she slept with somebody when they were allowed to sleep with other people, and like flipping a table at her, and he says like, you'll show me another man who wouldn't act the same way. I'm like, what? I'll show you somebody who's not Jesse, but that's apparently the only person you're hanging out with and getting advice from. So like, of course your perspective of like what another man would do is totally warped. Yeah, like Christian having a head-to-head with Jesse too is also another moment of like people with like awful ethical instincts just like consulting one another, and that's awesome. It's super fun. But also we also have a little spice of like some people who are just kind of sweet throwing in. Like that's also why I love having Nina and Daddy there, because they're just like, they just come off as like just sort of sweet, kind, dull Disney adults who are just somehow mixed up with like the most awful assholes on the planet.
They're like, maybe Santa Clarita would be a better place for us.
Yeah.
like literally planning to move to get away from all these people.
Yeah.
Do you have any other highlights that we haven't talked about?
Yeah, I don't know. I'm happy that Michelle is seeing somebody else, but I'm a little disappointed that she's cheating on Quentin Tarantino.
What did you think of her new guy in his like brief appearance?
I don't know. I guess we need to see more. I feel like we didn't really get enough to have for me to have a judgment so far. Did you see enough to come off with a read?
I'm ready for more of him. I think the fact that like he was so ready to chirp into their co-parenting business that they were sorting out. When Jesse was trying to get under Michelle's skin by like talking about moving to Orange County, and Michelle's firing back about how like the only problem I have with Isabella is that she wants everything and she gets that from you. Like just such a weird way to talk about like your toddler, and like you weaponize your child to fire back. And then I can't remember what Jesse says, but the new boyfriend chirps in and is like, oh yeah, by giving her everything she wants. Like the fact that he's that ready to dive into something that is like so personal, to come in on a like fresh relationship and just come in that hot on a co-parenting issue that is like really not your business, I thought was really showed his potential for like being up there in terms of an asshole on the level of Jesse. So I'm ready to see them butt heads. I really like that.
There is real potential there for sure.
Yeah, and I also love the introduction that we get from Michelle to her new boyfriend, where she's in a confessional. She's like, oh yeah, he's this guy that I've known for a couple of years, and we just kept bumping into each other at coffee shops and on hikes. And like, it's like, okay, yeah, the places, going on hikes and coffee shops where you just happen to bump into people.
I just kept running into him in the little swan-shaped paddle boat in the middle of Echo Park, which is oh, you again.
There was another moment that I really like in terms of Jesse and Jax hanging out when Jesse like shows up in a car, in a new car, I guess, and Jax is like, whoa, you rented this? Just immediately like turns it into this like power play between these two like guys that are going through a divorce. And they're always in a position, I guess, as you're going through a divorce where you're like, assessing the value of your assets against like what your partner is going to get, and just to immediately bring that energy to the like friend dynamic and be like, oh, did you rent that or is that yours? And just like eyeing up another person's stack. I just really, I think, captured their mindset, and I just really love that element of toxicity that has like seeping into their relationship with each other, but it doesn't come across as something that is going to be adversarial. It's something that they're like bonding over this like toxic mindset that they have. So I just thought that was like a really beautiful inclusion.
Yeah, absolutely.
I think we covered most of what I wanted to talk about in this episode. Did you have anything else?
What I like about the Jesse stuff, just to like wrap that up, is just that Jesse has been waiting for this for so long. Like he has wanted to go to war with Michelle because they have so much like animosity and negativity in the relationship that he is going into the divorce like he's been preparing for this battle for years. So that's like a big thing that I took away from this episode. And I'm excited to see how this terrible person goes to war against his ex-wife, because that's what he's been waiting to do for a long time.
Yeah, totally. I mean, I think that Jesse, for sure, it feels like he's gearing up for war, and I'm really interested, like you said, in seeing how that plays up. I think Jax and Brittany is also going to be a really interesting clash to watch. I don't think that Jax and Brittany are as prepared for war or as capable of preparing for war as Jesse is, but really interested to see how that goes down as well.
Yeah.
Who are your stars from this episode?
You know what? I might as well give a first star to Kristen. Even though she was kind of zonked out and all, it was her unpredictability is just always such a big asset. She walks into a scene sometimes like you told her that you're going to start filming like 5 minutes before the camera started running, and it just feels like it could always go in any direction. No matter how long you've been watching her, you still can't predict what she's going to do. So her energy was kind of the most exciting for me. So I might as well go ahead and give her the first star. Let's give a second star.
We also got that beautiful moment where she is lecturing Janet about like the power of accountability, and we get a montage of her not taking accountability. So
yeah,
she brought a lot.
Yeah. Let's give a second star to Jesse, because again, I love hate watching this guy, the most perfect asshole, and he is been gearing up to go full asshole for so long, and we're gonna see him realize his full potential, I think, this season, and it's a good start. Why don't we give a third star on a slightly more positive note to Brittany, because that's going to be like one person that we could actually kind of cheer for unironically during this season. I think is going to be Brittany hopefully finding some more independence and getting her life back on track. As much as this episode is often framed in terms of Jax, we literally end with Jax's name going down in flames. Like I think the last shot we have is of the name Jax on like the wall of his bar, crossfading into a fire pit. So as much as the framing often puts the emphasis on like the downfall of Jax, like what's going to happen to Jax, a lot of the actual content of the episode is Brittany talking with her friends and like discussing about her feelings and what she's going to do and stuff. So that it's good to have that side too, and that gives us somebody that we can kind of root for. And I thought it was a pretty good episode for her too. So let's throw her in there as well.
So that's interesting that you brought up the fact that we have all this framing about the downfall of Jax, but the body of that is explored through Brittany talking with her friends, because like I wonder if production realizes that Jax as like a character and as a person is incapable of carrying a emotional story arc, and so they need to lean on the other tools that they have in their in their toolbox in order to be able to present this story, because Jax is not going to be, he's not a reliable enough narrator for his own story in order to carry a truly emotional like arc about redemption and downfall and all the themes that they would need to be able to communicate within a story like that. I'm curious what your thoughts are there.
No, I think you nailed it. Yeah, I think we need Brittany's perspective too to kind of round it out and to have more honesty. Like you say, like Jax is not, we can't count on him to be honest in his reaction. He's going to spin things in pro Jax way, and I think we can count on Brittany to be a little more vulnerable and to speak her emotional truth a little bit more. So we need her perspective for this to feel more satisfyingly dramatic. I think you hit the nail on the head there.
Yeah, I think I've got very similar stars to you. Number 1 is going to be Kristen, and number 2 is going to be Jesse. We've really covered that. I want to give number 3 to Janet, just because I see that she is trying to make something happen here in terms of like patching things up with Kristen. Mm-hmm. I am interested to see what she does here, just because I do think that as a villain, she is interesting. Like she emerged as a bit of a villain at the end of last season, and I think that she's just not really likable by the fan base, and I'm curious to see how production kind of responds to the sentiment from the audience on Janet, if they're able to like lean into her being a villain, or if they're going to try to redeem her. It'll be interesting to see how they try to like position all of these people narratively when we have so many new players. Like it's a brand new cast. How they respond to the audience feedback is really interesting, and I think she's one of the more active like strategic players that the Valley has here. So yeah, I want to give an early shout out to her trying to make something happen.
Yeah, good call. I think that she's been kind of chomping at the bit a bit to get going. Like you can tell that she really wants to mix up. She really wants to get involved. In the first season, she was very pregnant for most of it. She didn't really get much opportunity. So it's interesting to see what she's going to get up to this season.
Awesome. Well, I think that about does it for this week. Dylan, do you want to let people know where they can find you?
For sure. I'm Dylan Ferguson on Substack and in real life. That's my name. I write about movies on Substack. So if you want to see some of my thoughts on recent movies, go over there. I haven't put anything up there in a while, but hopefully we'll have something new very soon.
Awesome. I'm Craig Midwinter. You can find me on our Instagram at Bravo Outsider, on our TikTok, also at Bravo Outsider. Yeah, that about does it for this week. Once again, hit the subscribe button, leave us a comment, tell us your thoughts. We would love to hear what you think about this. So until next week, keep on wifing.